Hey guys, today's topic is equations of lines in the coordinate plane. That will be section 3.5. And your warning for today is that you have to use rulers for all of the graphs. And we're going to get started with the slope. If you remember from algebra, slope is letter M. Slope is the same as rise over run. Rise over run is the same as the change in y. All of that over the change in x. And that is the same as y coordinate 2 minus y coordinate 1, all of that over x coordinate 2 minus x coordinate 1. That is the formula for the slope. Now we're going to go over a quick example to find the slope between these 2 points. They give me this point first, so that means we have x1, y1. They give me this point second, so he has x2, y2. Now I'm ready to plug in stuff into my formula, which is y2 minus y1, all of that over x2 minus x1. y2 is positive 4, so I'm going to plug in positive 4 minus y1, which is positive 6. I'm going to go ahead and plug in positive 6, all of that over x2, which is negative 3, minus x1, which was positive 4. After you type this into the calculator or you do it in your head, you get negative 2 over negative 7, and this is the same as positive 2 over positive 7 if you simplify. This is your answer for the slope. Then we go over the slope-intercept form. That is an equation. An equation that looks like this. Y is equal to mx plus b. That is slope-intercept form. And in this equation, m is your slope, and b is the y-intercept of the equation. So hopefully this is ringing bells from algebra. Now we're going to go over types of slope. First of all, we have a positive slope right here. Positive slopes go up, and the equation for a positive slope is y is equal to mx plus b. Then we go over negative slopes. Negative slopes go down, and the equation for a negative slope is y is equal to negative mx plus b. Then we go over zero slope. If you have a zero slope, you have a line crossing the y-axis, and it goes sideways. It goes right and left. The equation for that would be y is equal to a number. Last but not least, we're going to go over undefined slopes. Undefined slopes go up and down. They're a line going up and down. They cross the x-axis. And so the equation for undefined slope is x is equal to a number. Look, if you have y is equal to a number, you cross the y-axis. If you have x is equal to a number, you cross the x-axis. Now we're going to go over a graph. We're going to graph two equations. And first of all, let's go ahead and graph the equation y is equal to negative 2x plus 5. In this equation, I'm first going to find my slope. So slope is the same as m, and remember y is equal to mx plus b. M is in the same spot as the negative 2. So that means that my slope is negative 2. Then I'm going to go over the y-intercept, which is the same as b. And in the equation I have b is in the same spot as 5. That is why b is equal to 5. Then I'm going to use this information to make my graph. And something that you need to be careful with is that the slope is negative. So that means we're going to go up and then over to the left. Or we're going to go down and then over to the right. One or the other. So let's go ahead and spot the y-intercept, which is at positive 5. Again, this is your y-axis, this is your x-axis. And at 5, I need to have something because that is my y-intercept. So over on the y-axis, I'm going to go up 1, up 2, up 3, up 4, up 5. I'm going to make a dot at y is equal to 5. Then I'm going to use my slope. I have to move up 2, 1, 2, over 1 to the left if we use this approach, or we could move down and over to the right. If you choose to go down and over to the right, you will have to go back over to the y-intercept. You cannot start from where you left. If you're going to change directions, you have to go back to the y-intercept. So if I have to go down, I'm going to go back to my y-intercept, go down 1, down 2, over 1, to the right. After this, you make sure you use a ruler to connect your points. And this is your graph. You have to have the arrows on the top and on the bottom. Now, let's go ahead and graph a different equation. So, our equation is going to be x is equal to negative 6. Now remember, we're looking for y is equal to mx plus b. Do you have that? No, we only have x is equal to a number. So let's go ahead and find x is equal to 6 over on the graph. My x-axis is here. So at x is equal to 6, I'll have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the x-axis. Make a big dot, and you can get rid of these if you want to. And now x is equal to 6. So since this is an x number, x is equal to something, that means I have to cross the x-axis with a line. So my graph will look like this. And again, make sure you use a ruler to make your graph. Now we're ready to go over writing equations of lines in slope-intercept form. First of all, they tell you, write the equation of the line with slope of 5. So I'm going to circle that. Slope of 5. Remember, slope is m and m is 5. And the y-intercept of negative 3. So the y-intercept is b, that is negative 3. Once I have that, I need to make my equation look like y is equal to mx plus b. Instead of saying m, I'm going to say 5 from back here. And instead of saying b, which hopefully this color matches. Didn't work. Let's try again. Okay. Instead of saying b right here, I'm going to say negative 3 from back here. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and plug stuff in. Y is equal to 5x plus negative 3. And again, m was here, m is here, m is here again. And for b is here, b was here, and so b is here again. From here, I need you to simplify your equation. So it's going to say y is equal to 5x negative 3. So minus 3. Why? Because plus minus makes up a huge negative. Now, that's it for this question. So I'm going to go ahead and box my answer. And moving on, they tell me write the equation of the line through the point negative 3, positive 6 with the slope of negative 2. All right, I have to say this is my x number, this is my y number, slope is the same as m. So I have to plug something into my equation y is equal to mx plus b. Instead of saying y, I'm going to say this y. Instead of saying x, I'm going to say this x. And instead of saying m, which was my slope, I'm going to say this number for the slope. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and plug stuff in. Y, instead of y, we're plugging in 6 because we set that back here. Then I have an equal sign in my equation. Instead of saying m, I'm going to go ahead and say -2 from back here. So -2. Instead of saying x, I'm going to go ahead and plug in this number for x, which is a -3. So if I put in a -3, I have to put in parentheses. Why? Because if m and x are together, you need to keep them together with parentheses. Then we have a plus, and b, we do not know what b is. We actually need to find it. So from here, we're just going to solve the equation. 6 is equal to, whenever you have 2, -2 times -3, that becomes a +6. And you're going to keep copying your equation, so plus b. Then I'm going to get rid of the 6. To get rid of this 6, I need to move it over to this side, and it's going to be a negative, so this is gone. And I'm going to keep going and solve my equation. -6 plus 6 is equal to b. If you type this into the calculator or do it in your head, you get a 0, so b is equal to 0. After this, we're going to write the equation y is equal to mx plus b. Instead of saying m, I know my m is -2 from back here. And instead of saying b, I'm going to put in the value for b, which is here. And didn't mean to do that. Somehow my slope turned red. I didn't mean to do that. So let's go back to this. We need to plug in the stuff for our equations. So y is equal, instead of saying m, I'm going to say -2. X stays the same, plus b. Remember, instead of saying b, you're going to say 0. And last but not least, I'm going to rewrite my equation, which is here, and this is my answer. Now let's go over to the other page. We're going to go over an example with a graph. Your graph is there already for you. And remember, this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, and your goal, I'm going to write here, the goal is to have y is equal to mx plus b. Now, let's go ahead and find the slope, which is m, and the y-intercept, which is b. And I'm going to write int for intercept, just to make it shorter. So b, on the y-axis right here, my graph crosses the y-axis at this point. So I need to see what that point is. I'm going to go down 1, down 2, down 3. I think it's really hard to see. I'm going to use green. Down 1, down 2, down 3, down 4, down 5, down 6. That means my y-intercept is at -6. And m is my slope, so I'm going to choose one point on my graph, which, let's keep the y-intercept. And then I'm going to choose another perfect number on my graph. How do you find a perfect number here? Well, you need to look for a square that touches on the corner. So if you choose this square right here, I'm going to use the other pointer. If you choose this part of this square, Well, that doesn't work because this line is not on the perfect corner, so you cannot see the exact number. However, this one over here, it touches only corner. I need to find the coordinates for that. And this one over here, it's not showing. This one over here, it also touches on the corner. So we could use any of those two. I'm gonna go ahead and shoot for this one. And the coordinates of that, well, he is at -1, -2, -3 on the x-axis. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, oh my gosh, it is not writing. He is at it was positive. On the x-axis, he is at +1, +2, +3. So +3 on the x-axis. And then on the y-axis, we move down, so I know it's going to be a negative. Negative down, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. It is at -7 on the y-axis. And over here, the y-intercept, again, it was at -6 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. You can plug this in and find the slope. That is option number 1. Or I could say my slope is, I'm going to go to the y-intercept. I move down 1 over 1, 2, 3 to the right. So my slope is -1 over 3. Because again, I went down 1, so there's my -1. I'm going to show it to you like this. I went down 1 from here, from the green one to the blue one. I went down 1, and that's why I have my -1 right here. And then I went over to the right, 1, 2, 3 to get to the other green dot. So there's my +3 right here. Okay, I have the slope, I have the y-intercept, so I'm ready to say y is equal to mx plus b. Instead of saying m, I have the value for m up here, and instead of saying b, I have the value for b right here. So I'm going to go ahead and say y is equal to -1 over 3x plus b, which is a -6. If I rewrite this, I get y is equal to -1 over 3x minus 6. And again, m and b. Now, we're going to go over one more example. And they tell you to write the equation that passes through the points -3, +1, and 4, 8. First of all, we need to have our goal. We know the goal is to have y is equal to mx plus b. So first of all, I need to find the slope. Remember, the slope is y2 minus y1, all of that over x2 minus x1. And they give me this point first, so he has x1, y1. They give me this point second, so he has x2, y2. After this, I'm going to plug in my stuff. Instead of saying y2, I'm going to say 8 minus, instead of saying y1, I'm going to say 1 over, instead of saying x2, I'm going to say 4 minus, instead of saying x1, I'm going to say -3. If you have two negatives together, do not mess with them. Copy them both. After you plug this into the calculator, you get 7 over 7, or you can do it in your head, and that's the same as 1. So I know my slope is 1. Now I need to go ahead and find the y-intercept. Now, to do this, we have an extra step because it is not given to us. So we actually have to go ahead and do some work. Remember, y is equal to mx plus b. I want to choose these numbers to work with them. And so instead of saying y, I'm going to say the y number. Instead of saying x, I'm going to say the x number. And instead of saying m, I'm going to say my slope. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and plug in the numbers into the formula. Again, y is 8 equals slope is 1, and then you need the set of parentheses. The x is on the inside, which is positive 4. So then I have 8 is equal to 4 plus b. If I get rid of the 4, I have to move it over to this side, and it becomes a negative. So after I solve this, I get 8 minus 4 is equal to b, and this implies that 4 is equal to b. I meant to do a square. This is a square to find b. So now, using all of this information, I'm going to say y is equal to mx plus b. So instead of saying m, I'm going to say my slope, and then instead of saying b, which, let's use 2 lines for b, I'm going to say the value for b. Again, I'm going to go ahead and plug in my stuff. Y is equal, m is 1, x plus b, which is 4. Just showing you this is m and this is b. So since that is my answer, I can go ahead and box it, and I am done with that one question. Now we're going to go over 2 more problems before I turn you loose. Let's go ahead and graph this equation. Remember, you have y is equal to mx plus b. The m is next to the x, and then I have the b, which is the number by itself. So I can go ahead and graph this. This is my y-axis, this is my x-axis, and I'm going to list the information I have. First of all, I know my slope is m, and that is negative 3 over 2. That means we're going to have a negative slope, and I know my y-intercept, which is b, and I know it is 1. So now I'm going to go ahead and spot my y-intercept first. My y-intercept is 1, and that means on the y-axis I cross at positive 1. So over to 1, make a dot. Then I'm going to use my slope. Again, negative slope. That means we're going to go up 3 and over to the left, or we could go down 3 over to the right. So let's go ahead and go up first. Up 1, up 2, up 3, and over to the left, big dot. I can erase the ones I did. And then if I want to switch directions and go down to the right, I need to go back to my y-intercept. From the y-intercept, I'm going to go down 1, down 2, down 3, over 1, 2, to the right. Here's my other point. After this, you can erase the tiny dots if you want to, but you have to use a ruler to connect your points. After you connect them, you make arrows on both ends, and you're done. Let's go ahead and go over the last problem. They tell you to write the equation of the line through 4 and 1 and 0, 4. First of all, our goal. The goal is to have y is equal to mx plus b. I do not know any of this information. The only information I know is that this is x1, this is y1, because they give me the point first. This is x2, this is y2, because they give me that point second. So that means I actually have to go ahead and find my slope. Oh, alright. M is your slope, and that is y2 minus y1, all of that over x2 minus x1. And after I plug in the numbers, instead of saying y2, I'm going to go ahead and say 4 minus y1, which was 1, all of that over x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is 4. You can plug this into the calculator or do it in your head and you get 3 over negative 4. That is my slope. Then we're going to go ahead and find the y-intercept, which is the same as b. For that, we need the equation y is equal to mx plus b. I'm going to choose a number to work with it. And let's see, I want to use x2 and y2. So instead of saying x, I'm going to say the x number. Instead of saying y, I'm going to say the y number. And last but not least, instead of saying m, I'm going to go ahead and say my slope, which is here. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and plug in the numbers. Y is 4, and I didn't do 2 lines for it here. So y is 4 equals m, which is 3 over negative 4x, which is 0, inside of it parentheses, plus b. After this, I'm going to simplify, and then if you type this into a calculator, you get 0 plus b. And so after I simplify this, I get 4 is equal to b. And this is my y-intercept. So after I did all of that work, I am finally ready to plug in stuff into my equation. So I'm going to say answer y is equal to mx plus b. Again, m was my slope, which is up here, and b, we just found b. Let me choose red. So again, we just found b. B is going to be 4. Now, instead of saying all of those letters again, I'm going to go ahead and plug in my stuff. So y is equal to negative 3 over 4 x plus 4, which is b. This is my answer, so I'm going to go ahead and box it, and I am done. Now, make sure you do the summary for extra